finally reviewing the Firewire Seaside and Beyond in TimberTech construction. How did I come across this board? Well, early last year I became aware of the Seaside, a quad fish that Rob shaped, and I started becoming a fan of it, and then I got one and I loved it. And my mate started the journey a little later than me. He was looking for a mid-length. He was on an 8-foot mini mal, and he was looking for a mid-length to step down onto that would be more manoeuvrable than the 8-foot mini mal, but obviously it would be harder to surf. So, as you're typically a beginner, will start on a bigger board and then they'll slowly size down. So I said, well, why don't you get a Seaside and Beyond? Because I was frothing the Seaside so hard at the time. And he did. He got this TimberTech construction Seaside and Beyond. He got it second hand, pretty good price. This is the TimberTech construction. It's quite pretty. So he got the beefy version. So it's 610 by 21 1/4 by 2 7/8, and it's 47.2 litres. And I just for quick, I'm about 5'9", 575, 165 pounds, 75 kilos. So the general concept of this shape, basically Rob, he took the Seaside, which was his user-friendly performance fish because of the quad, bit more drive and a bit less loose than a twin fish, typically. And it performed quite well for a fish, that Seaside, because of the pulled-in tail, the sharp rails on the tail, etc. And he stretched it out and turned it into a mid. So the general concept, I guess, is like a cruisy, fun, glidey feeling mid with decent hold because it's a quad. So my first impressions, I surfed this thing in probably waist-high waves, and my first impression was just like, wow, the zip off the bottom. And it's that quad swallowtail, it's quite a wide tail. And the quad fins, I think a mix of the width, the widened tail and the quad fins, you just get loads of drive in small waves. And the other first impression I had was, it was just so easy to surf. It was just super easy to surf. And I'm not sure, I was probably used to the Seaside, so jumping onto this, I was pretty used to that feeling of having the quad fish sort of feel already, but yeah, super easy to surf, loads of easy speed. Pretty easy to turn once you got your foot over the fins. I mean, that's the same with all boards, but yeah, really nice, intuitive surf. So going over the shape, we've got a fish outline with a Y point forward. We've got fairly gentle but continuous rocker, like there's not like a flat spot really, especially on the rail rocker line. If you looked underneath, through the belly of the board, through the straight, from top to bottom, through this straight bit, there might be some flat spots because there is a pretty deep concave, but if you're looking at the rail rocker, it's pretty continuous and it's pretty gentle. So I guess the next thing is the concaves. So it's got Rob's crazy single double V that he has in the Seaside. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that well, but crazy single double V, and the double is very deep, like up in this part of the board. I don't know, I guess that helps it rock rail to rail or something, but I'm not a shaper. But anyway, that's the concaves, and then obviously we've got a swallowtail, and we've got 4 fins, quad fin, and we've got Rob's split keel that he built for the Seaside that we've been running in this board. So I think this board comes in LFT and TimberTech, and maybe also Volcanic now. What do I think about the construction? So obviously I've ridden my Helium Seaside a lot, and I love the Helium construction. So this TimberTech construction, it's a little bit different. It feels quite a bit heavier than the Helium construction, and I had the Sunday in Helium, and the Sunday had more volume than this, and the Sunday was lighter than this. So the TimberTech is definitely quite a bit heavier. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Sometimes, because I've ridden heavy boards that I really liked, and I've ridden light boards that I really liked, so I think it's almost a preference thing. whether you like a heavy or a light board. But the benefits of a heavy board is the chop won't, number one is the chop won't affect it as much if you're surfing choppy conditions. And two, it just has a different feel. It feels like it's got more momentum when you're doing your turns. And then obviously a light board feels nice and whippy because it's just lighter. But so when it comes to wave range, this thing's pretty unreal in terms of, I've taken it out in like waist high, thigh high waves, had fun. And I've also taken it out in like double overhead, fucking macking beach breaks. And I've had fun. And I think depending on who you are and how well you surf and how big you are and how small this board is or how big this board is, it's pretty radical, the wave range like that this thing can handle. I can imagine using it as a step up and a step down, which a lot of mid-lengths are like that, but it has a particularly impressive wave range because of the quad fins. Because in big waves, the quads really just give you tons of hold, loads of control. And yeah, in the small waves, you still have decent drive and speed. Yeah, crazy wave range for this board. Tons of paddle power, so in the big conditions, you're paddling into waves super early. Tons of hold. The only thing I found about this board in big waves is because the tail's so wide, I found it like almost hard to roll onto rail. If I had my foot like, even back here, if I had my foot back here, it would still be like on a big face, it'd be hard to set the rail, and I'd have to move my foot to like the toe side edge to set the rail. So the only thing about this board in big waves I would say is the width of the tail. But obviously this is the beefy 610 version. If I had like a smaller size, I'd probably be fine. It's probably got limitations in the step up sort of conditions because of the width of the tail. But if you've got a big foot, or if you're a big guy and you're on a smaller size, I reckon you could totally take this out in macking big waves. I mean, Rob has taken out in big waves, so obviously you can take it out in big waves. Skill range, that's the other cool thing about this board. I feel like it does cater to a pretty wide range of people. My friend, he's probably gotten onto this board when he was consistently catching green waves, so he was really early intermediate, or I don't know what you'd call it, but he was just starting to catch consistently, and that's when he got this board, and it was super fun for him because it was way more nimble than his Minimal. And then I've been frothing it because it's just a super easy cruisy surf in almost all conditions, and I feel like, yeah, you might not want it if you're a more advanced surfer because it's a bit too cruisy, but then again, Rob loves it, and Rob's obviously a shred lord, so its skill range is, it goes, I think with the skill range, there's a lot of bottom end, more bottom end than typical for sort of a board this size, maybe. It's a mid-length. Mid-lengths are great. Mid-lengths, so pros and cons. Pros, massive wave range, goes great in the small stuff, holds in the big stuff. Cons, it's a little bit of a cruisy mid-length. It's not really like ripping mid-length. Obviously, it's a mid-length, so you're not doing like crazy 12 o'clock snaps on it. And I would say in the mid-length category, you could find some mid-lengths that would rip a bit harder than this would. So yeah, if you want to rip on it, it's not really a ripping mid-length. It's more of a cruisy mid-length. That could be a con, depending on who you are. And then also just the tail width, if you're going to go into bigger waves with it. I think that's a con. But then again, it depends on what you're buying it for, and it depends what size you get, depends on how big you are, and all that stuff. So, where it might sit in your quiver, I think it makes a lot of sense. If you were an intermediate surfer, around my skill level, you might have this, and then you might have a shortboard, and this will be like your small wave fun board, and your shortboard is your good waves, and then you could also use this if the waves get unmanageable and you want more paddle. If you're a beginner, you could use this as your shortboard, and you could have like a bigger board for the smaller days, and this could be like your good wave board, which is kind of what Cooper, my friend, was doing for a while. Yeah, so that's kind of where, and then you could just use it as one board quiver if you wanted to, and just cruise around. It could be a one board quiver, because it goes, the wave range, like I said, is crazy. Would I recommend it? Yes, I think I would. I think it's not going to be, I don't really know how I feel about putting beginners on fishes. Like logically, if you've got a board that gives you more speed than a typical thruster sort of shape or a Minimal shape, surely you want the board with more speed because that'll just give you more. But I think I'd recommend it. I find it really fun. I find it a really fun, easy surf, so I'd recommend it for sure. As like a beginner step down, I'd recommend it. And then if you're an intermediate surfer and you're looking for a fishy mid-length, it's a great option. Yeah, it's a fantastic option because it just has so much. The quad really does change the whole thing for me. I think the quad just gives it so much range. If you've never ridden a quad, you definitely need to ride one at some point because it's pretty cool. They can be a bit tracky if you've gotten quite good at surfing and you want sort of a more loose feel. They can be a bit tracky. So I guess if you're in that beginner intermediate stage though, a quad is really nice. Like, it forces you to draw out your turns a bit more because they're tracky, which is good. So I'd totally recommend this board. It's a sick board. Anyway, this has been a crazy one because I've been surfing this board. It feels like I've been surfing it for over a year. I don't even know. It's probably been about a year now, actually. Been kind of like taking it out when it sort of makes sense to, or when I just wanted to, or whatever, because obviously my friend surfs it, so I'm not taking it at every session. And I've been wanting to surf other boards as well, but yeah, I've been surfing it on off for about a year now. It's just a fantastic. It works. It's worked in everything I've put it in.
Look, I'm terrible at surfing backhand, but I think the fact that I'm so bad at it and that this is going so well is a testament to how good this board surfs backhand and how user-friendly it is in general.
There you go, Firewire, Seaside and Beyond. I think the Seaside is probably one of Rob's best shapes. One of his biggest value adds to the shaping world, and the Seaside and Beyond is a mid-length version of that. If you're not ready to jump on a short little fish, but you like the look of the cruisy Rob surf style, cruisy, smooth, flowy, fishy feel in a mid-length, pretty good option. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.